Yo, what's up? I'm Zach, and this is Expanded Understanding, and I'm here with Aaron. We're kind of late. I didn't expect this to start until 8:30. I always expect Frank to go until 8:30, and so when Frank does not go until 8:30, I'm not ready. So I was not ready this evening. But that's. Yeah.
Yeah, he like naturally wrapped that up right at 8. I was like, wow, well done, Frank. I don't think he's looking at a camera or a clock.
Yeah.
Just wrapped it up.
He had some cool topics inside of there. I was listening for like the last hour or so. Were you listening?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Yeah, I just tuned in for the last hour or so. Yeah, same thing.
Gonna kill that. I just killed the music for everybody with no fade out or anything, but you'll just have to live.
Nice shirt. I think that's
Oh yeah,
the first time
I
you've
was
worn
never
this
gonna
shirt.
wear this shirt on this show. That's right. It's very polarizing. It says powder, not power to the people, and I'm not necessarily a supporter of Che Guevara, but I do like the shirt.
But I like the shirt. It's all good. It's plenty of
Yeah.
good reason to wear a
And
shirt.
if you hate me because of my shirt, well, that'll give you something to unify with other individuals around after my death. So we'll just take that positive from it.
Yeah. Hey, Willow. Willow said, hey. Hey, Joe.
We got here. We got Willow and Joe.
Willow and Joe in studio. Willow and Joe in studio.
They're having confusing Willow Joe kind of conversations. I can't even try and read that. It made my brain hurt as soon as I tried to figure it out. So I just failed on that entirely.
That's
They're
right.
too
Weird
smart for me,
nuanced
dude. Like
good.
I'm a simple man who wears Che Guevara shirts. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand all this complex stuff. People and their rhetoric and cleverness. I'm just no. Just little old Zach. I don't get it. Come to me with your tech problems. I only know how to solve simple stuff. That the solution is actually just Googling it.
Yeah, no shit. I just saw a meme I think I posted like 6 or 7 years ago on Facebook on the memories thing, but it was like family and whatever, friends and family think I'm an expert in IT or something. The truth is, I'm just better at using Google than they are.
True. Yeah, people have thought I was smart for years, but actually, I'm just better at using Google than them.
True. Some nuances of the words and things. Oh, and Austin Olson. Hey, Austin. Just having you.
Austin, I haven't talked to you in a long time. How are things going? Where are you at right now? Are you up in Washington, or you working in an oil field somewhere? What are you doing?
Cool. Hop on the show. Tell us about your life.
Austin spent some time working for the devil, if you consider Halliburton the devil. My mom did. So I by proxy partially think that Halliburton is the devil. I think it was Halliburton that he was working for. I think Halliburton owns all those oil fields. Everything up there.
Okay.
That
I did not.
Up in the
he said North Dakota.
North Dakota, that whole shit. Oh yeah? Over in North Dakota, cool. Making that good money, North at least. Dakota. One thing that Halliburton is good for is siphoning money. They have a lot of it, and they tend to give it out for doing the things they want you to do. So that's it.
North Dakota. Oh yeah, sure, you betcha. It's a good place to get oil.
Oh, don't you know?
Dakota.
Oh yeah, don't you know?
Oh yeah. Oh sure. What else, North Dakota, man?
I kind of wish I had spent more time living in places with like people who spoke with cool accents. I feel like the Washingtonian accent is to like not have one. You enunciate all of your words and you like speak pretty proper and shit.
Yeah.
And, like that's kind of boring. Not gonna lie. Kind of boring.
Yeah. I could
I like people who talk like this, mate. It's like just so much more engaging to listen to. Like they can talk about nonsense and it's more engaging.
That's why Angela is going to be successful, whatever she does in life. That British accent that everybody wants to listen to, whatever she's talking about.
It definitely fucking helps.
Definitely
helps me listen to shit. That's for sure. I think half the reason that we watch so many documentaries is because David Attenborough was so engaging with the way he talked about it.
Man.
It's like,
yeah, isn't that interesting? So I wonder if that's just as engaging. I wonder if that's only engaging to like colonialists or colonizers, basically white people. I guess that voice, but it's not innate to like other countries like India or like even Australia, maybe. Or I don't know about Australia, but I guess colony, that's a result of that. But India or other places, they just like the British act. Well, the Brits took over India for so long, it's probably ingrained there. They probably find that pleasant, or maybe they find it like the accent of an oppressor.
Though, so I think they probably just find it more like the dude talks normal. Whereas
Yeah, I
we're
guess
like,
so.
well, he
Yeah.
has a really cool voice, you know, like
Yeah.
to them, that's not the
You
case.
know,
It's normal.
who's annoyed by David Attenborough's accent? Probably just like the Russians or something. The only
What you
culture
got
like
against the Russians?
he
Why the fuck would
ruins.
Russians
He ruined.
dislike it?
No, it's being so different. They're so different from their culture's so different than the British accent. That's just nuanced and it's kind of historical, right? That we came from that kind of our white white progression across the United States came from that English
Maybe
accent
Russians would
area.
find it nice to listen to because it sounds so soft and fluffy. Clearly, the man is
Maybe,
weak if he speaks like that. That's probably what a
right?
Russian
Yeah,
looks at it like, because they have like
there you
a
go.
hard verbiage. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Something like
So
that. Where it's just like it's not as like appealing to them. It's just different. It's like the Klingons and shit, with humans being so their voice, everything they do is so wimpy. Everything the Klingons are do is so aggressive, but like to
yeah,
them that's normal. Or Nordics or Vikings or want to get into cultures, but yeah, because the language is much more harsh than a British accent anyway. At least a
yeah.
soft British accent.
I think we usually feel comfortable around something that's like similar to us. That's
Is
the
there
easiest to feel comfortable around, at least.
is there an accent that you that rubs you the wrong way? Have you ever run into one?
I wouldn't say any of them rub me the wrong way. There's some of them that I'm like, I feel like they lack functionality because of how thick the accent is. But
Okay,
some of
like
those,
what?
like I like the most, you know, like well, what's oftentimes is a derogatory term, but since we're talking about England, they refer to them as parkies, which are just like
Oh.
gypsies that like they just kind of like park their shit wherever, and like now they got like a little community, and that actually like happens quite a lot in
Hmm.
England and around that area. There's
I
I
didn't
don't
know
know
they had
about
their
quite a
own.
lot, but you know, more than it happens
I
some
didn't know
other
they had
places.
their own colloquial term, parkies, as opposed to gypsies or any of the other best
Granted, with
names
the
you
way
call
that
them.
they say it, it might be pikeys. I'm not really
That's what I
sure
was gonna say.
because they
I
always
thought it
like
was
pikeys,
pikeys.
you know, but like sometimes they slur the AR into sounding like this I. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the people that they're talking about butcher words even more, but it's really actually quite funny to listen to, you know?
yeah.
What
Well,
the fuck
like
would I
in
want with a caravan? No fucking wheels, man. You're like, what
that
did you
one.
just say?
Yeah,
It's
which was
hilarious
like,
sounding.
is that Snatch? Is that movie, Snatch?
That's the
That's
movie
best
that
portrayed.
comes from. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think they
portrayed
lay it
so
on a
well.
little thick there. I don't know what these people are really
Probably.
like. I'm uncultured. I haven't been around them actually. So I don't know what they're really like. And I'm not like making any claims to what a person is like, obviously, in this case, because I'm fucking
Sure.
ignorant and I'm
Yeah,
telling you that. But also at the same time, like even that's an accent that a person could use, you know. And I wouldn't say it rubs me the wrong way. I definitely look at it and go like, that's really hard to pick apart. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah. Right.
But in a certain sense, anytime someone speaks like another actual language, not just an accent on English, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
really hard to understand because I'm, you know, just a mere human and I don't actually speak
Yeah.
very many languages. I speak like English
I
and
think
bad English.
I think it's funny how accents, it seems to me, can be like, you're just attracted to certain people or not. It's not about being racist or not. You're just certain people are attracted to for whatever reasons. That could be ingrained. You analyze why I didn't grow up around many people like that. So maybe that's why I'm not, or I'm more attracted to people I grew up around, whether it's the same race, other races, there's an innate attraction maybe that's culturally defined through your environment, maybe partially genetically, who knows. Anyway, so it's interesting to also hear accents like that. I'm sure what came to mind is the when I hear an Australian accent like Crocodile Dundee, right? That's not a knife. This is a knife, like something like that, right?
It's a knife.
Yeah. That's a knife. Like that context of scene, I get it. That cool, it's fitting, whatever. But then I hear, I don't know, I saw some ad or something, like Australian ad, and it was Australian women doing these ads and just the Australian accent, a woman speaking. I'm like, yeah, it's just not, nope, definitely not like the British accent.
That's not
Doesn't
doing
do
it for
anything
me.
for me. Yeah, that's kind of going the other direction, and that's weird because it's just an accent.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
This
Interesting.
is the whole thing of like likes and dislikes, you know, they're so fucking subjectively arbitrary that they oftentimes they're even illogical, which is totally fine due to how subjectively arbitrary they are. There doesn't really
Well, do
need
you,
to be a reason why
okay,
I like French fries but don't like nachos. I just
yeah.
don't,
Which
you
it's
know.
like, and not that you have to have a reason, but I feel like there's always a logical reason. There's some kind of neural patterning, some kind
I
of
feel like you
progression. I
can
mean, I
always
think you have to
logic
know.
a reason
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
want
Because I
to.
think there's legitimacy reasons, but it doesn't mean you need to find them, and it doesn't mean that the like or dislike hinges on knowing the reason at all. But I think
Sure.
there's always a reason. There's always an equation that leads to someone liking something, and variables may be just too complex to even care to think about. That's fine, but there's
Yeah.
reasons. There are reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, you can reason anything if you want. Like it's kind of weird too because you know in the I don't know if it's actually the inception of that term, but certainly in the early days of the idea of like reasoning, that was like an activity that you did, you know?
Yeah, no
But
doubt, man.
now it's like it's not really an activity. It's like this set in stone kind of like truth that exists inside of something that you're able to find. But that's not really the case. If you take the time to reason something, you can find all kinds of reasons inside of it, including
Yeah.
unsubstantiated reasons or illogical reasons. And
Well,
all
even
this,
like,
you know.
well, it's nice to be in the space where you can reason with people. I mean, that's what you and I do here, and anyone who comes on the show, we're reasoning, even if it's we're extrapolating or having fun or joking. But I think in Isaiah, the Lord even said to Isaiah at one point, He said, "Come, walk with me and reason with me." Like
Mm,
there's a level of cognitive engagement and reasoning. And everything's not blind faith. It's like, look, there are reasonings, and you see that
right.
in any TV show to some higher form of consciousness, if you will, or higher level engagement, aliens talking to less advanced species or different things. There's ways of reasoning. And some of that, the whole prime directive in Star Trek is to not have contact at all. Like if it's a pre-warp culture, pre-lightspeed culture or something, their reasoning is to have zero reasoning. We're not interacting with them at all. Let them evolve however they're going to evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. There's your subjective arbitrariness of reasons. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Why don't you interact with them? Well, because we shouldn't. You know, it's like based off of what? You know?
It's like,
Oh, well,
okay.
that would have the potential to hurt them. I mean, well, not interacting with them also has the potential to hurt them, but clearly that's not going to stop you from that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You actually
That's
don't know
getting
on either side what the fuck's going to happen from it. That such is the nature of the future. You know what I
right.
mean?
Which is interesting because then I mean you get into all the moral and ethical dilemmas and in the show that come up against that. So the Prime Directive has its ways of breaking down general standard truths, but then every captain or scenario has to face certain decisions where they bend or break that truth based on the circumstances requiring that. Because no law, I mean, there's no man-made law or whatever culturally created laws can be applicable 100% of the time. They're general rules, but there's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah. Especially when you're taking a cultural rule and then trying to interact with another culture. You know,
No shit.
like that's
Right.
begging for an exception to the
Yeah,
rule.
no
You know what I
doubt.
mean?
It's a lot of imposition. It's good structures, good frameworks, I guess, to engage other cultures, but then there should be a lot of openness within that, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I think like we see the same thing in a lot of different levels. One way that we see it is like with what I believe it is to be like a good parent is like when you're coming into that engagement with the child, you're coming into it in a way that you're just like trying to learn what they are and help them help facilitate them being what they want to be. You're not coming into it in any way where you're trying to impose upon them the right way to do it and this kind of shit. You know, when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
start coming into your engagement with your children as like my job is to teach them how to do this, that, and the other thing. Well, a lot of
yeah.
risk actually comes with that because if you like those things aren't right, well, you just taught them the wrong shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no
You
shit.
didn't do it because you're an asshole just trying to teach them the wrong shit, but it doesn't change the result that they now got taught the wrong shit. You know?
I guess ideally in that regard, if you're, with kids, you're growing with them or at least getting excited about even simple things that they're learning because there's always new ways to learn it or the joy of them learning shit on their own way in their own speed or just of them, the enjoyment of them learning things.
Sure.
And then teaching you shit along the way, being able to re-see it in a re-simplified manner, in a manner that you haven't thought about in a while. Or, I mean, asking kids is like the best thing ever. You just keep asking questions, or let them ask questions, and just keep answering, and like let them go down those thought processes. They're great,
Yeah, I
and it's
mean, you
okay
don't
if the answers
really
I don't
even
know.
need to like want to teach children. If you just spend time around children, they'll basically request your teaching. They'll ask you like, how
Yeah,
do you do this? Can you do this for me? Can we do
yeah,
this? These kinds of things. And then through interacting with you and you already knowing how to get that done, they will see a way to get that done. But this also leaves them in a space where they can kind of like, they don't feel as though this is the way you have to do it. So their creativity still gets to work and maybe they'll recognize some way of doing it that's actually better than anybody else ever recognized, you know?
yeah,
So there you go.
totally. Yeah, I've really appreciated just, I mean, it goes to just interacting with humans too, I guess. So I appreciate it since Nate started working for us, I don't know, a year and a half or so ago. um, telling him along the way, like if you find there's a lot of ways I'll teach you to do things because that's either how I was taught or the ways I've learned along the way that are more efficient or the most efficient ways I've learned to do certain things. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have discovered things, which you probably will, and he has, like let me know. So there's several things we do differently just in this short time. Like I'm fucking way better. Thank you. I have no
Yeah.
pride about that. Thank you for figuring that shit out. Now we can both do our jobs better. Great.
Yeah. That's like perfect in my mind. Like you see the the freedom of a good relationship right there. And I think a lot of times through in parenting, especially through our belief that we are have like something that we're supposed to do, we need to be like this. We take all that freedom out of the relationship, and then functionally we're like, then we're surprised that like our kids don't like us. Like you wouldn't like you if you did the same thing to your own life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So of course your fucking kids don't like you after you do shit like that. It's kind of what you deserve. But
Yeah. I've definitely seen, I mean, trying to think of the families I've seen that have done a lot of things right, meaning in the sense like their kids don't hate them, they do have relationships, they've created functional human beings that think and reason for themselves and are able to see things in a way that's like, I don't know, just healthy, I guess you want to put in that category because it probably is for social human interaction, self-perception and perception of others and whatever. And that was a lot of it. I think one of them, they treated each kid uniquely because each kid was unique.
mm-hmm.
It's whatever, you treat them and as they are and as their special abilities and talents or desires or progressions or whatever, and like being able to nurture that. But there wasn't ever any blanket statements about what they should or shouldn't be. It was like a continual growth process. I think the parents at adjusting to each age the kid was at so that they could just be, good partners with them, teachers, but grow with them like in life.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to me too, because like we see very like clearly it's no shock to you at all that if you have a daughter, you need to raise them slightly differently than if you have a son. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it goes a little farther than that. Like if you have a child, you need to raise them differently than you would your other child because like they're a unique human being at a
Yeah.
unique time and they're going to have unique experiences. So like you can't just regurgitate the same shit onto
You know,
them
it would
again. It
be
doesn't work.
it'd be fascinating, and it's not like I'm not saying it couldn't happen in my lineage. I don't know how they work genetically, but I don't think I have a lot of twins in my family, if I can think of any. But it'd be really cool to raise twins, just that dynamic, because they're so similar and identical in a lot of ways, but
Mm-hmm.
they're different. They're different spirits, if you will. They're two different
Totally.
beings. Even if they're experiencing the same things, they're going to experience it slightly differently, especially as time goes on in life, and they have different experiences.
Yeah, you get to see
But
pretty
the
viscerally that like even if they come up in the same place with the same scenarios and shit, they end up being different people.
Yeah, but then also the connectedness it seemed to have, like like some kind of weird, deep telepathic genetic connection, but they're different. I don't know. The whole thing is just fascinating to me. How cool to raise twins or triplets. Like, what a cool thing to do as a human to be able to raise them,
Yeah,
let alone be
that like
one.
brings up another interesting question too. Like, where's the line? You know what I mean? Because like if you had too many kids at the same time, you'd get like more data, but it would be possible to get like so much data that you're not really able to pay attention to any of the data.
Yeah, no
You know what I
shit,
mean?
man.
By
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
five kids or something, you're so overwhelmed with needing to do some shit all the time. You ain't got no fucking time to be like, wow, look at all the differences between these five different individuals. It's
Yeah, I
so
know it.
curious. You know, like you never get
That's
to
the
do
thing.
that.
Because like I guess about whenever I get to the point in life of having kids, like I want to be able to dive into them as a
Sure.
person, right? Meet them where they're at, learn, grow, learn their nuances as they're becoming whatever they are. But yeah, if
Right.
you have too many kids or whatever that means, how do you give them all that attention? You only have so much time in a day, so I don't know how you balance it out for whatever your lifestyle is or pursuit or desire you want to connect with their kids. Maybe people have less desire to fully dive in and connect with their kids in that way. I don't know. To
Yeah.
each their own, I guess.
Yeah, I think you really just like to be a good parent, you have to have wanted to have kids. If you end up in
Yeah.
some type of situation where you have kids because like you think it was the right thing to do, or you needed to do that, or you're like me, where functionally it was because like the societal, it was not really actually an option to like get an abortion or something, and like she's already pregnant, so like
Yeah.
you functionally need to have this kid now. You know what I mean? That puts you into like kind of a fucked up mindset where you're not really able to approach the relationship. You don't give it the time that you would give it if it was a thing that you wanted to do. And you don't give it the time in the same way. You give it this different kind of time that's like, I make sure to take care of it and I do it like on the hour, every hour, exactly how I'm supposed
Mm.
to. But it's not the same as doing it just like because you wanted to do it. You don't end up doing it every hour on the hour. Then you end up doing it for 3 hours straight in this moment. Right. So there was
Yeah.
no like every hour on the hour in that situation. You're like fully
Yeah.
engaged there, just doing the thing. And when parenting feels like a job that you have to do, I think this is any relationship, but parenting is the current thing that we're looking at. Uh, when it becomes like a job to have that relationship in some way, it really kind of destroys the sanctity of the relationship, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, it's like, how do you find so even if your initial, using the kids as an example, and this is, I think, the ideal that we all have maybe for ourselves or whatever, once you've made a decision, let's say specifically a life versus just a relationship that could be ended, I guess. I mean, life could be to a point, but I mean, once you have a child in this world and there's that dynamic, there's a continual reminder or an opportunity, I guess, that even though, I mean, I've gotten into this with the most ideal mindset, is there a way I can change my mindset now to fall in love with the fact I have a kid and become the thing that I need to be in that dynamic? And some people can't, man. That's why they bail, and that's why dad went to go to pack cigarettes and never came home, or or a
Exactly.
million other variations in between. Sometimes people can't. So yeah, ideally for sure, you're in the mindset of really understanding what you're getting into to the most you can. You desire to do that, and then you create a life with someone.
Which is really like the
You're
mindset that
there.
you need to be in, because the idea that I'm going to have, especially my first child, and that somehow I'm actually going to prepare for what this entails ahead of time is a fucking pipe dream. There is no fucking way you're going to prepare for what that requires out of you. Like, if it's your first kid, you're simply just not ready because you just don't have the experience. And in order to actually like pull this off, it's like a really complex thing, and you're probably going to need some experience. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, it's
you're
like
not
the
ready, and you should come into it knowing that you're not ready. You're getting ready all the time. You're learning as much as you can in every moment about what it means to do this effectively. That keeps
yeah,
you in
but
the right spot.
you're ready to not be ready. You chose to engage that and have this child and put yourself in a constant situation where you're going to be
Yeah, there's nothing
learning you
wrong
don't know
with
shit.
not being ready. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I always opt for a fucking basketball metaphor for some reason in this situation. But like when Michael Jordan put up like 63 points or whatever in the NBA Finals, he had a huge fever the day before. He wasn't ready and prepared for that game the way that he wanted to be. He realized he was in the fucking game and he wanted to get some results. So I realized now I'm a parent, and I would like to get the result of having been a high quality parent that raised a child who is, now an adult and capable of caring for themselves and all the things, right? And
Yeah.
then, like, through that, you basically fucking step up to the plate, even though you're not ready. You step up as much as you can step up. And the parts where you don't step up, well, you couldn't. So, that's how it is.
Well, that's what I think that in the kid dynamic, to be able to be in a community where, because we were in a past relationship, friends of ours started having kids, and we didn't, but we were still friends for a long time. But it was different because we're not diving into the same things in the same way. Now we're around them as they're going through things, and so able to see them process and learn and go through it. And it's just, again, I think what's the phrase, like, it takes a village to raise a child, or it takes a community or something. It's not just like necessarily just the nuclear family or whatever, but the community within which. So if you're around other people, you're already friends. You guys are all kids. You're all figuring shit out together. They get to play together. You get to figure out all your old new boundaries now. Now that you have kids to protect, so it's not just your own social boundaries with the adults. Now it's like potentially weird boundaries between each other's kids and how you handle that shit. And like, there's just a lot of shit there.
And in
You
a
know, it
certain
just
way, like
helps you.
that, with that, it takes a village thing. I think a lot of times people think that that's like some kind of choice. Like, well, I would benefit from allowing the village to help me raise my kid. Nah, motherfucker, the village is going to partially raise your kid, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, no
Like
doubt.
100%, the other people in society are going to have an effect that is very similar to the effect that the parent has on their child, on that same child. It's going to happen. It's not like, well, you could use the village if you wanted. Like, no, if you're in a village, you're using it.
So it's like, so it's about basically creating the environment too. I think I'm trying to remember the terminology. There's a book within the Christian dynamic, but the paradigm of having, what was the phrase? So like, but the idea was basically having sacred, where there's your friendships or relationships, and there's like sacred relationships, or relationships where you really know the people really well. You've kind of vetted them over time. You're not worried they're going to have things in their home or behave in certain ways that you're worried about your kids being around. You really trust them and built that trust over time. So it's
knowing
they're
them
the
long
close
enough to
community.
ensure they're not a crackhead.
Yeah, crackhead or just some other
Basically.
weird shit or whatever, whatever the whole dynamic. So you've created a community of those close knit friends over time, and then you bring kids into that. So it's creating a safe community that you already. So it's hard, man. It's hard if you move places. It's hard if you starting over in a new place in life or different things, you don't have community that you trust and have built into your life, and there's kids involved. That's hard because the community is going to happen one way or another. How much nicer is it when you have
I think that
those
brings up an
people in your
interesting
life?
topic that like, is it really hard or do we make it hard? And I think we make it hard through our unwillingness to accept that that's not actually like a choice that we're making. It's not up for our choice as to whether or not the community or the village will help raise the child. If I make the decision to move somewhere else to Chicago for work, well, Chicago street's going to raise my kid in some portion.
Right.
That's the reality of the
Yeah.
situation. So it's not hard to let them be raised by those streets. It's the fucking just the nature of you moving to Chicago.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Well, hard,
require any effort from you. It's going
hard
to
in the
happen
fact
whether
that
you
you
like
would,
it or not.
knowing in addition to the environment of wherever you're going, whether you have an actual network of people that you interact with regularly there, your kids will be influenced by it or not. And if you're up reverting to a brand new place, you don't have that, then all you
Sure,
have is
but
whatever
this
you
is a
acquire when
false
you get
sense
there.
of security anyways. You might think that you know these other people, but like,
Yeah.
and you do to some extent, and then to some extents you do not. And due to the virtue of the fact that they're a human and they could basically like completely change their mind about what they want to do and how they want to do it in an instant, while you might know them, the trust that you're extending to them is simply just a choice that you're making. And you could choose to extend it to the community of the new place that you're in. You just aren't able to rationalize that to yourself yet because you haven't gained like all of this data and stuff that says that your decision is safe. But all of that is actually a waste of time in this situation because if you live in Chicago now, it doesn't fucking matter whether you trust them. And it didn't matter whether you trusted them in the other place. You just did. That made you feel better about it, but it didn't change the situation at all, really.
Yeah.
Like that community was raising them regardless of whether you liked it or you felt good about it. Like that was still going to happen. That's like a question that you got to ask for yourself. Like, am I going to be able to extend trust to stuff here? If no, I'm going to suffer a bunch of negative implications of basically having fucking colitis all the time because I think the community that is inevitably going to be helping raise my child now is going to have some big negative effect on it. And that feels hard. I agree. But that also, to my perspective, is a fucking choice you made for your life. And it probably wasn't a very good one, in my opinion.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense the way you framed it. Yep.
Like, we think that trust is something that other people earn. And that function isn't entirely wrong, but that's not really where you get trust from. I can work my ass off day in and day out trying to get Aaron to trust me. But if Aaron is like a highly skeptical, non-trusting individual who just doesn't trust fucking people, period, he doesn't do it. It does not matter how much earning I do of the trust. You're not going to give it to me. You're going to give it to me when you choose to extend trust to me. So really, trust is a choice. It's not earned. But there is sometimes when you can definitely do things that are more likely to encourage people to choose to trust you or choose to not trust you. And so it looks like it's earned, but it's not. It's actually given out freely. Sometimes people just decide not to give it out to you anymore, or you choose to not give it out to them. And actually, the same exact thing is true with love. Yeah. You don't have to love your kids. It's a choice to love your kids. Trust me, I have personally worked with people that they do not love their kids. That is the whole thing that we're working on, is that they have kids and they don't fucking like them. And they don't like the fact that they had them. And in fact, they're actually like quite resentful against their kids for existing, even though technically it was their choice to have the kids. But that choice just like, it wasn't a very conscious choice.
Right. Well, it's funny that comes up 20 years later, 10 years later after the fact, and the resentment then, if you're not able to follow that through, then comes out on the child. And it's like, dude, it's not the kid's fault. You got to, I get that you're projecting that and that makes sense, but keep going with that thought process because it's you. You're mad at yourself, because you allowed yourself to be controlled by your belief system or construct, whatever people said you should do. It's fine. It's part of the pathway. Like, go to the end of it, though. It's you. You got to deal with yourself. Let that shit go. And then you still have a child and figure out what to do with it. But at least remove that whole shame, guilt, projection shit that get that thread out of there so you can think about it more clearly, then make decisions.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this is the whole real benefit of consciousness, in my opinion, is that so much is just a choice. in your life. You choose how to perceive it. You very much so choose how to feel about certain things by how you sculpt your value systems and shit like this. And since so much of life is a choice, it really pays to be conscious of the choices that you're making. You know, it's not like that consciousness in and of itself will benefit your life. That's not actually true. Being completely aware of the fact that like you fuck your life up here, there, and everywhere and not doing anything about it is not a fun place to be in. I have again worked with many individuals who were in that position and they're not fucking enjoying it. Not a one of them. While they're there. We basically always get them to a point where they are enjoying it. And it always comes through them making a conscious choice of fuck it. This is how I want my life to be. And yeah, Paul and Joan are going to fucking hate this and they're not going to be friends with me anymore. But this is how I want my fucking life to be. And that's all there is to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 It may not be beneficial in the moment or whatever. It may actually cause more torment in the sense or angst, being able to perceive the issues and not changing them or whatever. But at least when you understand them, there's a measure of, because half the time sometimes it's not knowing the problem is you don't know which steps to make in a positive direction because you don't know where the negative steps are made or whatever the dynamic is.
Yeah, and the ever prevalent you can't hit what you can't see. You know what I mean? The gaining of consciousness or awareness of who you really are, knowledge of self, if nothing else, provides the platform for you to do something with that. Because you can't fuck with something that you don't even know exists. You know what I mean? So step one is to realize how you're fucking your life up. Step two is to do something about it. If you complete step one and do not complete step two, you continue to feel uncomfortable because like it's actually a process. Then you can't really actually skip parts of the process. You can try and skip parts of the process, but it's very uncomfortable. So it's the same thing with like you can choose to believe that the world is a very bad place. You can rationalize that. There's reasons to believe that. You can make a huge logical case for it. But does it feel better to you to live in that space? Do you enjoy that space? Do you like living there thinking that the world is like out to get you? Because if you don't, you could also believe something different if you were so inclined. Because there is also people out there who believe that the world is a great place and that it's actually all like working out for you. And you may not notice it in the moment, but everything's actually coming together for your benefit. There's people who also believe that, and they're exactly the same as you. They believe something they can't prove.
Right. Well, if we talked about that one time, if that's put into our neurological patterning in the first few months or last trimester or something like that of before we're even born, that foundational expectation of benevolence or malevolence from the world, that I'll be able to fit into the world. The world everything will figure itself out. I'm going to keep surviving and living and be fine. Right. Versus I'm fucked if I don't figure out how to survive. If I don't figure out how to protect myself, I'm fucked. This world is initially going to fuck me. It's just like ingrained. It's like, is that, I don't know. I imagine even that can be changed, but that's just, again, I guess becoming aware of it. Maybe that's where it started, or at least like meditating into that thought and where we were tainted, if you want to put it that way, into a perspective that
when you realize like that I was functionally conditioned into thinking that the world was against me, you realize that you functionally have the power to condition yourself into thinking that the world is some way.
You know? Right. And the opposite. I mean, once you realize that, then you can change it. Change your perspective about it.
Well, that's why, but realizing that the world you can be conditioned into thinking that the world is some way means that you could condition yourself into thinking that the world is fucking anyway. You really can. Right. Well, there's plenty of people out there that think that there isn't a single thing that really needs to change about the world, that like it works just fine the way that it is. You know, in most cases, if you don't agree with this belief, they probably just have more money than you. It's really actually that simple with most people. People who have like millions and millions of dollars, they ain't sitting around talking about how the sky is falling. I'll tell you that right now. If you don't know that, you don't spend any time talking to people with millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. I do spend a little bit of time talking to people with millions and millions of dollars, and they ain't fucking talking about the sky falling. I'll tell you that right now. That is not what they spend any of their time talking about.
Unless they're part of a religious association preaching the end times and making millions and millions of dollars. Other than them, they don't spend time talking about it. Millionaires.
Huh. I don't spend any time with any very religious millionaires.
No, I'm just trying to think like stereotypically.
When you said that, I was like, he might be right, and I have no fucking idea because I don't spend any time with that millionaire. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everyone that I ever talked to, like, I don't think I've ever talked to them about God. We've never said a single fucking word about God.
Oh man, plenty of the millionaires I've met have been through Christian business interconnecting dynamics, and it's like
I hear that's a good place to get some money. People have a tendency to believe in things they can't prove in religious spaces. No, technically, yeah.
Well, it's provable enough, man. I was super into Bible apologetics. There's a lot you can prove, enough to be way beyond what people realize, or enough to make it not that big of a logical leap.
If you reason it out enough, you can prove it. You know what I mean? But that's a very skeptical situation, really. You know, it's just like the trust and the love and all these other things. You can convince yourself to do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was like a good choice. You'll only know that when it's basically too late. You know what I
mean? Yeah, no
That's
doubt.
pretty much how life works. Like, I choose to extend trust to someone, and that was a fucking good idea until they fucked me over. So was it a bad idea the whole time? I mean, the first 99% of it went fine.
Yeah, right.
There's no problem at all. It was that's why it's hard. It's like, where they screwed you.
Should you have done it or not? It's like, it's not that easy. It was kind of a ride, and a lot of the ride, it was worth it. It's just kind of the end was like fucking hard no, hard crash. And it's like, but does it mean the other stuff wasn't worth it? I don't know. I don't know. It's hard sometimes, but sometimes not. I don't know. Depends on the subject. But ultimately, there's nothing you can do about it. So
that's why I feel like I mean, like, I try to come into symbiosis with reality in this sense, and like that if it's a hard time, I try to learn from it, and if it's an easy time, I try to like recoup during it or enjoy it or whatever. And so through that, it doesn't matter whether life is throwing a big pile of dog shit or a bouquet of flowers at me. I'm receiving it regardless, going like, nice, we about to get some shit, guys. You know what I mean? We get some free shit right here. And they're like, that's a turd. And I'm like, but it was free. You know what I mean? And I can do something with this turd for sure. I just got to like polish it up and shit. And then I'll be able to do something with it. And then once I do that, y'all motherfuckers are going to be all salty because I got a bunch of free shit. You know what I mean? Well, everybody likes free shit when they perceive that shit to have value. But when it's a piece of shit that they don't perceive to have value, they feel like you shouldn't take that. But at the end of the day, it's all free shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I willfully accept energy that's coming towards me because it seems like ridiculous for my own growth and effectiveness that I would be like trying to like spend my energy to keep energy out. Like, that doesn't really make any sense to me.
What if that energy is from a negative source? And what does that mean to you?
Then it probably has all kinds of positives inside of it, and I need to bring it in and run it through a filter.
Nice. Yep.
You know what I mean? It's nothing is. I don't believe that anything is anything that you could say in one word. That is negative. No. That is positive. No. Well, what do you think, Zach? I think it has constituent parts of both that are subjectively arbitrary to the perspective that's gazing upon them. And I understand that that's like a fucking stupid big brain answer. And what it means in smaller brain is I don't care which one it is. I don't spend any time with that. I don't spend any time doing that. When a situation comes in, I don't go, is this positive or negative? I spend zero time on that. I just navigate the situation.
Right.
It's got positives. It's got negatives. It's the situation. You know what I mean?
Well, it's true. And that's like the pro and the con of needing to simplify things to communicate effectively.
Sure.
But also, it's not that simple. Depends on if you're going high resolution or low resolution. Depends on the subject of what's being communicated. I don't know. It's the art of storytelling, I guess, and communicating. Knowing all those little nuances of how to communicate those different dynamics.
This is the thing about communication, though. You could say that if explaining it simply to them doesn't have them get it, perhaps they're not in the position where they're supposed to get it. You know? If I say to someone who very often frequents Twitch, this dude's being pretty monk-ass. He knows exactly what I mean. Exactly. If I say that to somebody who does not frequent Twitch, they're like, what the fuck is a monk-ass? You know what I mean?
Like me.
Because it's like it's a completely different linguistic. It's just a way, like it's associated with a way of acting. That's all you need to really understand, because it's just it's like, well, we used to say this back in, the 90s before homosexuality became like all hot topic and shit. Dude, stop acting so gay. right? Like we didn't actually mean they were homosexual. It was just like this kind of like word that we lumped on a way of acting. You know what I mean? And it didn't really actually mean anything to do with homosexual. So like if I said to somebody who spoke that same language, you know, you're acting kind of gay right now, they knew what I meant. But if I said to somebody that didn't speak the language, they're like, how? I'm not attracted to people of the same sex, and I'm not demonstrating that in any way. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? It was functionally gibberish to them. And the same thing happens, you know what I mean? But like these kinds of codes and stuff, it's a code in a certain sense, you know?
Colloquial code.
Yeah, like when if I'm trying to say right in front of somebody else to somebody that's on Twitch, you know, this guy's kind of acting like a fucking dumbass, you know?
Yeah,
I can say to them, hey, look, this is a bit monkey ass, don't you think? The other person sitting there that doesn't know that language has no idea what I just said, but the person who frequents Twitch knows that I was like, this guy's being kind of a dumbass, huh? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was said simply. One person doesn't understand it, another person does, but the person that did was actually intended to hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And it's nice to, I mean, that's how you pick up on that shit too. It's like being in a group setting or, you know, it's dynamics where you can hear people talk about that in front of you. Or even like, so like being down there and you and Joe talking about a lot of the DNB stuff and just like absorbing you guys talking about it, using certain terminologies and seeing how, you know, Joe responded to that. Like, so in the context, understanding more what it meant, and obviously asking questions at times, but just being able to observe that. I guess, I mean, again, the community dynamic and just even as adults, whatever, we're all kind of learning and growing and raising each other, if you want to call it that, just by what we observe from the interactions of those of people we put ourselves around or put around us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we never stop fucking growing, you know?
Right.
I think a lot of people like to think that they stop growing, but
no, man, never. I mean, yeah, they've already, like, that's a mindset that changed too in universities. There's a lady, she's done several TED Talks, neurologist, and she had I always forget what the difference is, the aneurysm versus the other thing in your brain, but she's a neuroscientist, but she knew what was going on the morning she woke up. She had this aneurysm thing, and it was in her right brain, and she would remember going in and out of these states of basically like breaking the default mode network maybe or something, in that place of being super disconnected from self and ego and self-awareness. So she was going to dial the phone of a colleague or something to tell them what was going on, or to get a call an ambulance, or you know, whatever. And she's starting to dial the numbers, and like, you know, 4 8, and she goes to dial the next number, and the button turns into this universe of thought and existence, like all this other shit, right? That goes on for this infinite amount of time, but then she kind of sucks back into reality, and like, and she's explaining post having all this happened, what's going on in her brain, and the part of her brain where the blood is now moving and how it's connecting, causing this to do this, and like her mind, and like,
yeah,
fascinating shit.
Yeah, that'd be so crazy to like have something like that happening, and you have like so much awareness over like actually like functionally what's happening. You're like, wow, I'm having a fucking aneurysm right now.
Yeah.
And like in a certain way, you could be like a little bit more chill about it.
Yeah,
even though that's
totally.
not necessarily something you should be chill about.
No, totally, but it is what it is. Like, when you understand it, it's not like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. Like, no, you understand that this happened in your brain. It's causing, wow, that's really interesting. It's like psychedelic experience. That's an interesting connection. All right, here we go on the ride. It's happening. Like, but you're aware kind of what's happening. Definitely, I think gives a framework cognitively to go for the ride, or of whatever you're experiencing.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps accept it. Like Terrence McKenna talked about this, that like he was glad that you had like to eat a bunch of mushrooms in order to have that experience, because if you just like sometimes had that experience, it'd be fucking terrifying, you know? But like when you eat the mushrooms, you like, you know, like you did some drugs, okay? They're gonna have some effects. They're gonna last some time. Expect things to happen. You know what I mean? So like, and it adds like just such a safety net to the idea that like the craziest shit might happen in a moment. Yeah.
Yeah, but that moment will eventually restabilize into what you like. You're allowing your ego the freedom to know that it's going to come back to what it knows to reality, most likely. You know, like, it's not.
That's the thing that would be weird about the aneurysm thing, is that like, would you be into? I don't know, because I don't like know enough about case studies of how that's gone. Maybe she did, to know in the situation like, oh, I'm definitely gonna come back from this though. Like maybe she was like, fuck, I'm having an aneurysm, but this is what my life is like now. whoa.
Yeah, no,
That's
no
a
doubt.
big yikes on that one.
Yeah, that's where it get a little scary.
Big
Like,
old fucking yikes.
wow. Yeah, no shit. No doubt, man. Who knows? Like, I don't know. I'd have to listen to it again. But so she talks about one of the things, and one of her things about one of the major misconceptions that was conveyed through like a generation of university students, was that the brain and your DNA is the one you've got, the one you're born with is the one you've got, and you actually get less neurons and stuff over time, whatever. And it's just not true at all. I mean, there's constant ways to help bring your brain into neurogenesis and creating new neural pathways, new neural connections.
Yeah,
And
really
it's like,
simply too. Like it's like you have a hard time avoiding it.
right. And yeah, it's just kind of insane that that was even adopted. So she goes after, she really elaborates on that pretty well and just showing how much control we have over our own creating new neural pathways, new networks, even later in age. So we're always learning from people around us. And I think there's a saying, what is it? Show me your friends, I'll show you. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. You know,
Yep.
show me who you're choosing to allow to be in your life and around you. And that's, just from the conglomeration of that, it helps set you subconsciously, and it's always setting you on vectors or project trajectories that are definitely going to mirror those in some ways, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, this and the really like the same thing can be done with like the past to the future. That's the whole idea of like psychoanalysis and like its heavy focus on like what traumatic experiences that they've had in their life is this whole idea that like if you tell me where you're from and what you've experienced, unless you do something about your default choices, these are the choices you will default to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I think
So
the
kind of
biggest
like
thing to take out of like our whole study of the brain, because certainly we haven't gotten to a point where we understand it entirely, but the huge plus that we can already take from it, in my opinion, is that like it's so malleable. We
yeah,
can change so much of it, and we actually have so much effect that we can have on it just basically simply through reiterated choice. Like choose something and then keep doing it that way. And then like it starts doing stuff differently. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
like that's really the good takeaway from it, because regardless of when we get it all like mapped out perfectly, it looks exactly like this, and when you think about it, when you get a boner, this is exactly what happens or whatever, like that's not
yeah,
that important. The fact that like we're able to change our mind so much will be the thing that holds importance inside of that forever.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and also the what thoughts activate the boner, because like being able, you can do all that from your mind, let alone healing your own neurology in your body, but being able to self actuate, self stimulate without actually touching yourself. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't even know that you can do that. That's a thing. That's real.
Sure.
But like we don't know how connected our minds are to our body.
Yeah. Yeah, we have it. We have a bit of a disconnect. I think this all actually, in a certain way, we reiterate this to ourselves through this idea of kind of like acting like we don't have control over what we're doing in life. We give away this responsibility in the idea that like that gets us away from being the one who like fucked up and dropped the ball. So in the moment, it's like, shit, I need to get out of this trouble. How can I do that? Well, I'll avoid the responsibility. But then you avoid the responsibility and you start basically habituating this belief inside of yourself that you don't have the ability to change your mind. And if you don't believe that you have the ability to change your mind, well, now you don't have the ability to change your mind because you don't even try. You know what I mean? But all of the science has shown us that we really actually have maybe too much of an ability to change our mind. Like if we could just put this specific programming in that worked for everybody, like that would be great. And then everybody would have a great life. But we don't really have any idea even what that thing is or how we would basically force someone to be like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No fucking idea. So, but we do know that it can change. Like we know that for sure. And I think like that's the coolest part, because if you don't like what's fucking going on in your head, just fucking change it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
that's like
can't change it because this, that, and the fucking other thing. Like, yeah, all right, dude,
yeah.
whatever.
It's like
Get over it.
it's the most freeing and most disheartening news at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. I love it. Like, I
Yeah.
love that piece of news personally. Like, you're happy you got it and pissed off you heard about it at the same time. So, like,
Yeah, fantastic.
it completely canceled all of your feelings for you. You don't have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's like there's so much for the range of emotion. You got the whole spectrum in one bang. Yay.
Yeah. And you're left at the end of it going like, well, I guess I don't really feel anything at all about that.
Yeah, like you're like, what the fuck? I thought it was supposed to be about the journey. Those two singularities weren't supposed to come together yet. Well, they did, but
like, well,
it is what it
I
is.
mean, the destination's part of the journey, so. And
yeah,
you're like,
but you're here now,
weird.
so
You're fucking weird. You don't make any sense. Like, what the fuck? It's supposed to be about the journey, but the destination is part of the journey, and fucking like, are you making this up as you're going along?
It's like destination. Maybe it's enjoying certain vectors too much. That's probably what it is. All right, it's like the vector's over. It's over. You can't get back on it. It's over. You're at a point or a destination. We got to repivot, revector, and then launch.
Yeah.
So the vector's over. You got to find a new vector to just launch. You got to fucking launch and choose a new vector and then ride that ride. Let the old fucking vector go.
Yeah. I mean, that's always what happens at the end of some ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think people get very sad about this, mainly because of their attachment to the ride that they've been on.
For sure.
But there's like,
what other reason would there be? Otherwise you just be excited to move on. Like there's definitely attachment to the ride.
Yeah.
One reason or another. One neurological reason or trauma or whatever or another.
Super good chance that the next ride will also be just fine.
Yep.
If there's parts of this ride that you like, there's probably parts of the next ride that you'll like too.
That's true. But I want to like these parts.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want more twists. I don't like there's not as many twists on that one.
But I want the parts I like to be named whatever.
Make sure they're in there. You can't promise that you can't promise they're in there too. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just going this loop again. Oh wait, but I'm sick to death of this loop. I guess I'll get off.
Yeah. It's a weird thing that we do to ourselves. And I really think that we end up doing that because we, in other ways, find benefit in absolving ourselves of the responsibility of managing our own space. And so I don't think that's a good look. I literally I'm running an experiment in my own life, and I'll get back to all the humans with the results upon the time that I die, where I literally go the opposite direction with that, where like I literally just blame myself for everything that happens on the planet.
Yeah.
Just so that I can like maintain this position of being like, I can change anything. You know what I mean? And like, I have beat my fucking head against that because I will say that I have found on my side of it, well, there's shit you can't change. You know what I mean? But like, there's a lot of shit that you can change that if you're not trying to change stuff that you would never think that you could change. Or at least it appears that people do not think that they can change that. That's what they tell me. You know, who can change that? But then, like, it's in a certain way, like, oftentimes, like, laughable to me because I'm like, you can't change it. Like, I changed that. Like, I'm a fucking human.
Yeah.
Like, I assure you can change that. That's like you could, you know.
Yeah.
And so the reason is deeper of why you don't. But in order to find that reason, we're gonna have to accept responsibility for that. Otherwise, we're not going to do that.
So it's funny, like, yeah, because it's like different levels or reasons of doing that. So I did that. The first time I really did that was several years into my marriage that I was in, that realizing, okay, what if everything that the other person is saying is true? Everything that's on me or that they're saying, that is really the cause and responsibility. I'm really the cause of all that in some way. Instead of just like beating myself up or getting all pissed off, it's like, let me find the answers.
They were saying like, you do this wrong or you treat me this way, like telling you that you were doing things wrong or what?
There's other root issues of like my root issues are ultimately the cause of our issues, right? There's something I'm not seeing that I'm not dealing with, so ultimately I'm responsible.
You that you're the problem.
Yes.
And okay, so you're accepting whether like the idea I'm the problem. That's true. What's it look like?
So then actually just deciding to put that on instead of bitching about it or finding all the reasons where there's truth there, but that's not the reason or whatever. Just like, okay, let's just put that framework on and then search it out. I found so much shit about myself I don't think I would have found otherwise. And still eventually, also finding we're like, no, that's not true. This is not all my problem. We have mutual issues here, not communicating, whatever. There's so much shit going on. But because I chose to take that on, I didn't really have a choice in a sense. I was committed to that dynamic, and that was the repeated argument. And I chose to either bitch or whine or go do something else, or kind of just put it on, try it out. And because I did, I found a whole lot of the shit I wouldn't have found otherwise.
Yeah. What if it is true that I am that person? Is there anything I could learn from that? I think that when I touch towards like the symbiosis thing, that's an important mechanic of that symbiosis, is to be willing to like just take on the other side to see what you could gain from it.
Yeah.
Because that's really like how symbiosis works. It's like, even though I don't like the other side, they drive me forward. So I do like respect them and I appreciate them and I want to give them their space because it gives me my space. And like, but without like accepting like them as them, you don't really get to see. Well, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, down at there's on Harbor Island out here in Seattle. So there's Seattle, there's West Seattle, and then Harbor Island's like in between. And there's a spot I found, which is like right on the little slough or the river here, whatever's going right in between. And it's perfect. The clouds have been awesome because we've had rain and some other shit. A lot of rain came through, like heavy rain.
Nice.
Came through for a couple days and weird bursts and whatever. But then the clouds were really cool and like textured and layered, and sun was great all day. Anyway, it's been a really, really nice spot to spend the day. Down by the river in the van.
Fucking Aaron ended up living in a van down by the river. It's not that bad, is it?
It's pretty sweet.
That's what I found from my time living in a van down by the river. Was like, wow, they kind of made this out to be a bad thing. I'm not seeing where this sucks.
Yeah, man. No doubt.
Where's the part of this that's bad? Well, society thinks you're a loser. Yeah, but I don't care what they think at all because I'm down by the river just chilling out in my van. Like, I'm not talking to them. I don't care what they think.
And really enjoying myself. So what's the problem?
Yeah.
Oh, just my own perspective about it. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. That's easy enough. Deal with that.
That's one of the major malleabilities of the brain is that it's like just what you put weight on. It becomes like, kind of like a controlling mechanism inside of your reality. So you have to, in certain ways, be like careful about what you believe is important.
Yeah, that's shit.
So important things have a tendency to create needs.
Yeah.
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 And having needs that aren't actually needs, but are actually the byproduct of a choice. So functionally they're wants, but you call them needs is kind of a predication for delusion, obviously, when viewed that way, right? Like, it was fucking confusing. You're probably going to need to rewind this live stream just to be like, what the fuck did you say? Because it's like a very confusing space. You know what I mean? When you start operating like that. Yeah. I think like needs should be approached the entire other way. Like, people try to like find out what they need. And it's like, well, like, but you don't have to find out what you need. If you put no effort whatsoever towards finding what you need, it will force itself into priority. And then like, you'll have to get it. And now you know what you actually need. The things that you find when you're looking for what you need are mostly shit you don't actually need, in my experience. Yeah. I need someone, whatever, to share my life with is a very common one. It's like, you want someone to share your life with. Tons of people have gone through their whole life without anybody to share it with. Like, you totally don't need that. You want that, and maybe you want it really hard, and that's fine, and you should go get it and whatever. But like, perceiving it as though I need it is actually going to make the journey of going and getting the thing that you want.
So does it help to have the mindset instead something like, I prefer to go on this journey in this life with someone else, and whatever that looks like, some kind of generalized statement, but the point is preferring that. It's not I need that, but I prefer that. And then the want is okay. It's the same dynamic. And then if that's what you want, you structure your life in such a way. Like, think I was back in high school. I remember this girl that I super had a crush on, and she said something, and like she's the pastor's daughter, and she's like a cheerleader on the high school team or the whatever, and just like had this crush on her. And she said something about she realized if she wanted to find when she wanted to date somebody, that if she was looking for something in somebody else, she had to be those things also. She had to actually be what she was looking for. And like, I heard that shit earlier. I was like, fucking, that's genius. And then elaborate on those thought processes over life. But yeah, you got to be the thing you're looking for. So you're a resonant match for it. But you're not in a place of needing someone to take care of you in any sense. You're able to come together and have a positive coherence going to get forward together. You both benefit each other's lives.
Sure. It's a very unreasonable expectation to like be together with somebody else. And it's like, you need to be loving all the time, but I'm an asshole 60% of the time. Like, that's a really unreasonable expectation to place on somebody else that you're claiming to care about.
Yeah, good way to put it, because that just you saying it that way, I'm like, yeah, yeah.
What's weird is that, like, when you don't put it that way, you have a tendency to default to doing it like that. You know,
yeah, no shit.
The difference between like I need a woman to spend my life with, or I need a mate to spend my life with, or I want one, is that they both go out and acquire the mate. The one that needs then places a shitload of requirements on what that mate has to be like. And as a byproduct of that, they generally find that the mate that they found doesn't cut the mustard. And so they need to go find another one, or they need to be unhappy with this one. Whereas like the one that wanted to find a mate, they're like, what? I found somebody that'll actually hang out with me? Sweet. What are you like? And they're like, I like rubbing poop on my face. They're like, that's weird. I don't like doing that at all, but that's crazy. Cool. Like, while you do that, I'll take pictures because I like taking pictures. You know what I mean? And like, they're like, well, I like taking pictures too, but not when I got poop on my hands. So this would be a good engagement. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The person who went after it after the need, they're like, all right, I need somebody to share my life with, and they need to not do weird shit like rub poop on their face. They need to not do that. And all of a sudden they have, maybe it's not a lot of people out there like to rub poop on their face in this specific example, but they don't really, their needs are actually in things that are much more generalized oftentimes. They've actually cut down the group of people that they could possibly pull from in order to meet this thing inside of themselves. So they're saying that they have a requirement of something in their life, and their actions going after that is actually an action that diminishes the pool size that would be able to provide that thing. That's counterintuitive to your needs. If you need food, it's in your best interest to be able to process a wide array of foods, not a slimmer array of foods. That makes food less abundant. So if you really need something, you should want it to be very available. So it's kind of weird to need something and then need it to be some specific way. You know what I mean? It just literally like the fucking thing doesn't work out when you run it as a logical equation. The functional way to do it is to be like, yeah, I want somebody to tell jokes to. And then anybody that'll listen to your fucking jokes, that's good enough. I don't really care what they do, because I just wanted somebody to listen to me tell my jokes to. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like having enough level of like personal freedom with yourself to be able to allow the other person to have freedom. Because when you live by your own very constricted set of rules, and this is true with any religious group, and within any religious group, it seems to me that I found that for sure in a lot of different Christian dynamics, but from what I've seen cross culturally in Muslim or other religions too, that there's a very religious portion of that religion that are very by the rules, very, very much by the rules in a way that gives it a very archaic name or perspective or what's the word for connotations in culture. But there's a lot that are more progressive, I think, in the ways that are even progressive and more true to the beneficial sides of the teachings within the religion. Letting go of the rules that you're being a good human being because you love yourself, you love people, you love God, whatever. But you're doing that because you want to, not because you're being told
that,
not
to. Be religious is that you have to be Jesus, and other people are like, well, Jesus was about love. As long as you're like about love, like you're good.
Yeah, well, they would call that difference between like religion and relationship. So to actually be doing, the love for God because of fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, but the fullness of wisdom is loving God, because you love God, because you love yourself, you love life, like you desire to do it. It's the want and the desire inside of you for destruction or whatever is changed to. Yeah, so they'd be able to want. So the dynamic even in friendships or relationships, when you have a rule on what your friends can and can't be like, or and obviously there's just ways of coming together and drifting apart over time just because of circumstances or whatever life, but as a generality, be allowing them to be themselves, whatever that is, and there's just fluctuation there. It doesn't have to hold them to some must be this way. Now that I've decided you are my friend, you have to be this way, and then some kind of controlling aggressively or passive aggressively.
People will learn that shit's faulty once they get exactly what reality provides to them. That always cures this: loneliness.
Yeah.
As long as you think that the people in your life need to be some specific way in order to be in your life, you will have engagements with loneliness. As soon as you realize that, like, well, I don't actually need anybody in my life, you'll never fucking be lonely again. You'll also have a lot more fucking people in your life, oddly enough. They'll just constantly keep crawling out of the woodwork trying to be a part of your life because they sense the acceptance that you already have for like what your life is. And really, like, other people come into your life because they are being accepted there and like they actually want to be there, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just fucking dysfunctional to do it the other way. Having said that, realize that of course this is a person saying that pretty much thinks like the whole of society operates out of a basis of dysfunction at this point in time, which I think is like perfect. That shows us like so clearly what would actually be functional. Like it's so easy. We just do the opposite of what we've been doing, and then we're good.
Yep.
No problem. Yeah. So like I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it works perfectly, and it's a great thing that the whole of society does stuff in like a way that seems completely dysfunctional, because that should make it very aware to all of us that like this is not working, and then we'll try it some different way. You know? But reality is not going to force us to try it some different way, because this is the God, need, want to love thing, right? Like reality doesn't need us to want to do it that way. It wants us to have the opportunity to do it the way that we want to do it. We don't actually want to do it that way, but we think we do. So we get provided with the opportunity anyways. And inside of that, we will learn what we actually want to do. We'll see that it's not that. So perfect. We're being provided with a perfect opportunity to realize the error of our ways. You know, and I think that's a very beneficial thing. I've gained more out of my life from recognizing the errors out of my ways than I have gained out of my life by recognizing the lack of error in my ways, by a long shot. Enormous long shot. I mean, like, it's not even fucking close. You know? So I get along well with people because of all the times that I didn't get along very well with people, not because of all the times that I did get along well with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's both,
all those
though.
times
Like,
I didn't, that I learned exactly how I shouldn't do it. Everything else works.
It's both. It's definitely both. There's a tremendous amount you can learn from positive interactions with people, especially like, oh shit, that engaging in that way was positive. You know, mental note, duly noted, and then being able to repeat that in the future for positive engagements. But then also, yeah, the fuck ups can sting more, or they're other teachers, I guess, very morally or emotionally detached.
Sure,
but I think
I'm speaking subjectively. I said I personally, I don't learn shit from stuff going right. I don't. I just don't. It's stupid, but I don't.
Okay.
It's just how it is.
I mean, is that possible as a human?
Yeah.
Like you just throw it out, it goes right, and you just throw it out.
Yeah. Well, everything went fine. What's there to think about? On to the next thing. You know what I mean?
All right.
I learn stuff about stuff when there is an apparent problem. I don't push myself to learn something about something just for the fucking sake of learning about it. So when something doesn't go wrong, I'm like looking, well, it's the engineering mindset, right? Like an engineer, when nothing goes wrong with the thing, is like, this thing doesn't have enough features. You know what I mean? I do the real, like, the problem solving work when there's a problem that has presented itself to solve. And that's where I learn about what's going wrong. If everything's going right, I just don't touch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or from the engineering mindset, add more features until it's fucked up, and then you'll have something to do. You know what I mean? And like, you'll do that with your own life. Like if you have not ran this exercise in your life, this is, well, kind of how it goes. If you like make some agreement with yourself that you're like, everybody else in my life is going to fuck off until I'm completely right with myself and I'm where I want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll come to find out, like, and you really got to actually be serious about this. Coming out the other side of it, you'll realize that like all of your relationships were completely fucked up. And like they're not anymore, because you don't like need any of those relationships in your life anymore. And you'll like actually enjoy them now. And you'll have like a good time with them just because like you can, you know what I mean? But like you very much so end up like, when there's a problem, you have the opportunity to find a solution. When there's not a problem, you technically don't have the opportunity to find a solution until you find a problem. But if you're looking for a problem somewhere where there isn't one and you're dead set on finding one, you'll make one. But this is a made up problem. That's not a real problem. That's a problem that you made up. And people do this all over the fucking place.
What about when you call it, you're trying to understand when you perceive something going positive or right, working well, in contrast to maybe not even your own experience, but seeing another dynamic, it didn't go well, wanting to understand why that thing went well.
Oh, I can see someone doing this. Yeah, you could just take the negative space thing that I do and do it in the positive space instead. You know, instead of going like, why didn't that work? You look at why did that work? And then you would gain something. I just don't.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, I'm just that's interesting because I do. Like, I feel like I'm trying to think. I think I do, or I didn't realize
I'm not sure
that
which one's right. I know I'm missing more information, but I know that
right or wrong.
I'm fairly confident that I'm enjoying the time where it's going right more than someone who is sitting there like analyzing why it's going right in any capacity. I just like sit there and have it going right, and it's great. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. But in, you know, someone, I could be on both sides of the fence, but that would leave me on one side of the fence. I would always be on the side of the fence. It's like analyzing how it could be better next time. And I'm never in the moment where I'm appreciating how fucking good it is right now.
Yeah, I feel like I get you. I feel like it's a spectrum. So it's like it's not either just fully immersed in and actually not enjoying the moment because you're so analyzing it, but a balance in between. Like my mind's always aware of pinpointing or taking theoretical snapshots or like putting a pin in it or like being able to create a thought process and then let it go and then still be present in the moment, but also valuing what are the machinations that led up to this moment or within this moment that created space for this moment. So it's not trying to, again, making hard, rigid rules of like, now follow this structure and format, but like what things were in place, setting dynamics or awareness so that these moments can be recreated in my life, other people's lives, or whatever, because it's positive, because it's cool, it's beneficial.
As long as that's not actually like sucking you out of the great moment that has been created that you're trying to figure out how to recreate, that's a great process. You know, you figure out how to create more of those, and that's what you want to do in the long run. So that's great. But I definitely think that it has the ability to pull you out of it too.
Yeah, no, totally.
Where you're always just analyzing what's going on, and you're never.
Well, I'm saying that people like, I mean, there's the long seasons I've gone of like not taking pictures or use my phone hardly at all, like my months or like year or two. I just don't even think about it. And then like because I'm part of it's being present in the moment. I don't even want to think to count my camera. I don't care. Fuck, like I'm here. Why would I even take a picture of it for me or anybody else, let alone post online? Like just. And then there's other times where like there's something about capturing a picture in a way that I connect with it in a different way. But it's just like different ways of engaging with stuff is really interesting. What level of
the first one's like apathy. The second one's like expansion, though. It's like you're taking this good moment and you're gonna like make it even better because like you know, like if you take a picture of it, then you're gonna be able to also enjoy that picture of it. And the other one is just like an apathy mindset. It's like, oh, it's not worth it. You know what I
mean? Yeah. Well, it's also, it's like not, it's like, I mean, if I think about it, it's not worth it. But then being in seasons that I don't even think about, it doesn't even come to mind. It's just wherever I'm at, I enjoy where I'm at. Like, you know, that wouldn't even come into it. Because I'm so engaged, I guess, in the moment. They're also taking a picture, but that picture is like momentary. The rest of the moment there is minutes and plus whatever. And then you're still fully engaged in that dynamic. I don't know. Thoughts, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, we just need to allow ourselves to, it's very important that we allow ourselves to appreciate the moment when we have the good moments. You know, this is the same thing with the idea of like, don't put your happiness in the future. Figure out how to make it right now. You know, like the practice of gratitude. And before I forget, by the way, hi, Michelle. There is, maybe there will be an Aurora tonight.
Michelle.
You know,
so solar activity
has to kick up in order for you to be able to see it in Seattle. You will never see an aurora less than KP6 in Seattle. I guarantee you that. And it is currently not anywhere near KP6. But
I gotcha. There was auroras in Seattle
KP6,
though recently.
Honestly, even.
There were auroras in Seattle last May 2019, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to see it, but they were down this far.
I pay a lot of attention to solar activity and geomagnetic activity. Really, I actually think it's quite important. And can tell us a lot more than we give it credit for currently. You know, but that's also like, you know, you could associate that exact same thing to the idea of not learning anything by stuff going right, only learning things by stuff going wrong. Like, I never even saw the idea that maybe an aurora would be like actually meaningful of something until I started recognizing, like, well, it was first when people started talking about the idea of a technological implications as a byproduct of a geomagnetic storm. I was like, wait a minute, these could have Earth effects. What the fuck are the Earth effects? You know what I mean? And like I've just been looking at it ever since because we don't know what the Earth effects are.
All the solar info and then the Schumann resonance shit.
Yeah, that's another angle of it because it's weird because we got like we got magnetics converging on us from the outside and from the inside. It looks like, and that means that we like really live in like an interference pattern, which is like
no doubt.
That's a complex space.
Which is the observer experiment and the double slit experiment. I was just watching some other new videos on that. But yeah, we are the interference pattern. I guess whether we're the constructive or deconstructive wave is our choice, where we pop our quiff.
Yeah.
Pop our quantum quiff.
Pretty weird.
Science
pretty weird life. Man.
So
hopefully, I like geomagnetic storms, and I always hope that they actually like go super hard, but normally they don't go as hard as I would like them to, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm with you. More storms, the better. It's fun shit, man. Makes life exciting.
Yeah. As soon as you said something about auroras, I like ran to space weather. I was like, oh my God, what is it like right now? You know what I mean? And I was like, it's not that great right now. You know, it could build, but right now it's not special. So
all right, well, I'll keep my eye out. Michelle's pretty convinced it'll build or it'll get there, so I'll keep my eye out. I'm actually gonna
There's been a lot of solar flares in like recent time, but not in the last 24 hours. I should actually look at this and see more data. When was the last sizable flare? September 26th. We had a decent one.
That's today
from that.
Or 2019.
Okay, so it was like really early this morning. It will be shocking if it gets here by this evening.
That's only a 9-minute delay for light to get here.
It's not the light getting here. It's the time that basically the electrically charged particles carried by the solar wind take to travel to Earth, interact with our ionosphere, and generate a reaction. So it's not light traveling at all. That's why, like where she says it's
particles, not waves.
Or somewhere, and this not just KP, but the solar wind. True, like solar wind plus ejection of material equals auroras. But a KP is the measurement of how much the ionosphere is currently excited. So we can, whether or not auroras are popping off, can always be measured by the KP and can be isolated from the solar wind. If you're trying to time like a flare getting here, you're going to need to watch basically how the solar wind is operating at the same time, because that those excitement particles are being carried upon said solar wind.
Totally makes sense, yeah.
So,
yeah. And she's in Washington, Moses Lake, and said the aurora was out last night. Well, cool, man. Fuck yeah. Keep my eyes out to the north. See what I see.
What was the planetary KP index? Because there was a KP5 storm. It got as high as 5 for a little while last night. And given very prime conditions, realize like this is a hard scale of 5, 6, 7, right? So like 5.999999999 is a 5, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's, it can be very, very close to this as well, but it takes in the neighborhood of KP6 for them to even have the possibility of like the edge pushing down there. You need like a KP8 storm in order to get them like above you in Washington.
Yeah.
But KP8 storms are fucking super rare. It requires an enormous flare, an X-class flare with high solar wind in order to get that type of stimulation. So, but if this happens, I would highly recommend going to high altitude, being outside, and just taking it in, because fuck, that feels weird. Super weird, dude. Super duper weird.
I can't wait. I want to do one so bad.
Really
cool.
But it don't take getting that high. If you're like a mile above sea level, ooh, you'll feel it. In that kind, if the auroras are above you and you're a mile above sea level, you're gonna feel that for sure. You feel the magnetics pulsing through your body. It's fucking weird.
Super cool.
Fucking weird. So
I gotta
highly recommend, more often. But also maybe take that with a grain of salt, because I can certainly say that an aurora that I saw in 2000 and Was it 15? I think it was 15. Definitely a big long chain of events that has yet to stop happening ever since then. That is like, I mean, you want to talk about weird synchronicities. Let me tell you about all my friends who have a kid named Aurora since then. Oh my Lord. It's like the only name that anybody wants to name their fucking daughter ever since that date. It's fucking so weird, dude. It's like all over the place, you know? Like, I mean, shit, I even live with one in a certain sense right now. Like, you know, Lucy that lives here, her middle name is Aura, but it's like a shortened version of Aurora. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just so weird. It's like all around me all the time ever since then. And very much so, like my decision to go take in that geomagnetic storm by myself was probably the linchpin that destroyed like a 7-year-long relationship. Well, not destroyed it. It was destroyed by a lot of little minor things leading up to something. But that was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, but like that camel's back breaking was more like the implosion of a reality because like, woo, it's been weird ever since. I mean, really weird, way more exciting than my life was before. You know, like I was so devastated when that relationship broke up, and fuck, I'm so thankful now, dude. Life got so much cooler. It's crazy. Like I didn't realize like my life sucked. It did, you know. Big shout out to Nancy Peterson for breaking up with me because damn, that was a good choice. I was boring as fuck at that point in time. She was absolutely right. She said I was antisocial, caustic, and rude. Fucking 100% on all accounts. I couldn't agree with her more. Absolutely. Like, you know, it's a really weird situation because every other girlfriend that I've broken up with, I feel like they made a bad decision. But her, she was spot on. If that was like her reasoning and really like with the way that things ended up working out, that was totally the right decision. Like it was so smart, like smart beyond her possible awareness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have huge respect for her ability to see this. This is the power of women, really. Like they know shit that they do not know that they know, and it's amazing.
That's emotional intelligence, right?
No, I don't really call them the same thing. I really don't.
Intuitive emotional intelligence.
Actual intuition, but intuition and emotional intelligence are not the same thing at all, in my opinion.
All right. Yeah, fair enough.
Intuition is functionally just the illogical gathering of information, or data would be better to say, because it hasn't really been turned into information yet. Women are capable of acting on it before compartmentalizing it in a lot of cases. And this allows their intuition to flow through unperturbed. Men like to put reason, rationale, logic, and all this stuff and build a case out of it, basically. And it kind of dumbs it down. You know, makes it boring. Women are, and not just women have it. Everybody has it. Everybody's got data pumping into them all the time. Don't believe me? Go over a mile up during a geomagnetic storm, feel the way that feels, and then come back and try and argue with me about that because you will feel some data being pumped into you. It is undeniable. You know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we all have it, but men don't allow it to act on its own. It has to be put inside of a logical box. And it's not men, it's logical tuned in people. I've known several women that are they're more logically tuned than illogically tuned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a fucking huge, great, wonderful power inside of being illogically tuned. It's not the same powers as being logically tuned, but they're great. They're wonderful. You know what I mean? And logically tuned people do not have them. So they don't have them. You know, like I couldn't see at that point in time that our relationship needed to end. I thought we were perfect together and I was doing all the things that I could in order to ensure the longevity of our future. Actually, I was wrong. Totally wrong. You know, logical box said that. In hindsight, intuition was telling me constantly that I was fucking up. Constantly. But I didn't see that until like hindsight reverse analysis. Because moving forward, well, it don't get to come out as it is. I got to box it into some shit. And nah, not good. So anyways, shout out to all the people out there who allow their intuition to operate. Intuition is a huge part of emotional intelligence. We can have a conversation about that at some point in time. I have like a multi-step thing of learning where intelligence doesn't really actually start to operate until later into the function. And intuition is basically the thing that starts the entire function. So from like my perception of it, I have a separation between them. I don't think intuition is intelligent. So there is thus it can't be a part of any intelligence. It's not the same thing. Intelligence is like this is going to start me down a line. Everybody can have their own opinion on this. At the end of the day, you're going to have the intuition, you're going to have the emotional intelligence, you're going to be able to leverage them to the amount that you are, and you're going to find out how good that works by the way that your life goes. You know what I mean? So, where they are, I don't even know that it's actually important. You know, I spent a lot of time trying to like logically box everything to exactly where it was, so I had like some perfect map of reality, and I still had no fucking idea where I was going. So, what's the value of the map, really? You know what I mean? Map don't do you no good unless you're trying to get somewhere specific. Then you're like, it's right over there. I'm right here. I just go like this. Easy, no problem, right? But if you have a map and you're not trying to go somewhere specific, that map is no good. It doesn't do anything. It's actually more efficient to just wander through the woods if you don't have anywhere that you're going in particular.
Yeah, but knowing the map can reveal places you want to go. They have a map to go there. But let's put a pin in that because we could talk about the intuition and pre-neural pathway programming being how much of that's related to intuition and what makes up intuition. And then the other things you're talking about too.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll remember that
on Monday's show.
If we're not remembering that, or you haven't heard us talk about that, Michelle, and you come around sometime and you're interested in hearing our take on that, feel free to ask again. Because I might forget. I forget a lot of stuff that is just stuff to talk about. I got ideas of stuff to talk about popping into my head every 4 milliseconds. I don't talk about most of them. So, at any rate, thanks everybody for being here. Like, subscribe, hit notifications, check out other social media places, or don't. Doesn't matter. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, and it's nice spending time with you as always, Aaron. We will see you on Monday, 8 o'clock. Presuming we both feel like doing this show. And if we don't, then we'll see you another time when we do feel like being here to ensure that you get us wanting to be here. All right. You guys have a wonderful night.
Bye.